welcome everyone to the annual Barney Gibbens lecture. It's lovely to have so many of you here. Some of you may be wondering, some of you may well have already Googled, who is Barney Gibbens? Barney Gibbens was the founding master of the Worshipful Company of Information Technologists in 1987. His portrait is hanging in the livery room. The first one on the left, he's in the founding court there. How did Barney come to be so pivotal in the origins of WCIT? He trained as a chartered accountant and then became one of the most significant founders of the UK IT service industry. He co-founded CAP20 with 10 employees who were all also members of Mensa. It doesn't sound the sort of company that would have welcomed everyone today, but what an incredible thing to do. 25 years later, CAP20 merged with SEMA and Barney became chairman. As well as being the founding master of WCIT, Barney was also president of the CSA, later called Intellect, president of the UK Computing Services Association, chairman of the UK Computing Services Industry Training Council and also the IT industry leading body, director of the UK National Computing Centre and also stood on a host of other public bodies. A fellow of the BCS, as well as a fellow of the Institute of Chartered Accountants and of the Royal Society of Arts, Barney clearly had wide-reaching interests. He was awarded his well-deserved OBE in 1989. I would like to extend a special welcome this evening to Tina Gibbens, who joins us for this lecture. Welcome, Tina. I can't see you on my screen. I can only see my huge face, but welcome. During the pandemic, like everyone else, we moved to an online organisation. Introducing the inaugural Barney Gibbens lecture in the autumn of 2020, with Edmund King, OBE, President of the AA, speaking about autonomous vehicles. We've kept this event online as we want to keep to the spirit of being as inclusive as possible to our audience. One of the great privileges of being Master of WCIT is to extend the invitation to the speaker for the Barney Gibbens Memorial Lecture. Today, I'm delighted to welcome past Master John Carrington to speak. John has been a significant mentor to me during my time in the company, always supportive, always giving me excellent and considered advice. He has supported many events during my time as Master, including a delightful day out with the Suffolk Social Group. Over to John.
Good evening, I'm John Carrington. I've been a member of the WCIT since 1987. I joined the court of the company as a court liveryman in 1994 and was master in 2001-2002, and then chair of the charity from 2006 to 2012. Whilst chair of Gresham College, I established the company's IT chair. I am delighted to have been asked by the master to deliver the Barney Gibbens Memorial Lecture for 2024. I knew Barney Gibbens before the founding of the Information Technologists and got to know him well during my period on the court from 1994. He did me the honour of attending my installation in 2001. As you can see from this picture, which shows me at Fishmongers Hall in the Master's chair, which is behind me, I gave to the company as my Master's gift. With Barney, the then clerk, Jill Davis, Esme Benjamin, widow of the other founder of the company, Alan Benjamin. Now, having accepted Kerry Mansfield's invitation to give the lecture, the challenge is, of course, what to talk about. Well, the idea of my lecture came from a conversation I was part of between two educationalists. The 2 points they made that stuck were, one, the number of people taking computing, IT at schools and colleges is diminishing. And two, the impact on girls of this loss is far greater than for boys. Today, I'm going to talk about the challenges to the highly successful UK tech economy posed by training, development, and education issues, and how the WCIT might be able to improve things. A government report from December 2022 noted that the UK tech sector retained its #1 position in Europe with a combined market value of $1 trillion. It is responsible for value-led innovation. It employs more than 3 million people. It has more high-growth companies than its European peers. However, a report from Forbes covering 500 British businesses found in September 2023 that 93% of businesses surveyed said there is an IT skills gap. The businesses cite training and development issues as a reason for this, whilst 41% of businesses point to the lack of training opportunities, and over a third believe the gap also stems from the absence of relevant education programs. In 2020, there was a major change in the curriculum for teaching IT in schools. From that year, computing in schools was required to be delivered to all students, which meant the need for a rapid rise in the supply and training of specialist educators. In the short to medium term, this meant that there was a shortage of qualified teachers of computing. Although progress has been made, that problem, it appears, still persists. Now, how are teachers prepared to teach? Well, typically, they undergo teacher training, which may or may not include specific training in IT, depending on the route they take. Some teachers may have specialized in IT or computer science during their training, while others may receive more general training in educational principles and methods. The quality of IT teacher preparation also depends on resources and the support provided by schools and education institutions. As computing is a constantly developing industry, it is important schools offer continued professional development, or CPD. There appears to be a problem with both initial training and continued professional development. In preparing for this lecture, I picked up from a report in February 2023 from a primary school teacher that indicated in an increasingly crowded and demanding primary school's curriculum, IT is quite literally being sidelined. It went on to say that there is already evidence that some secondary schools don't even offer the subject as a discrete part of KS3 timetable. This was a backdrop to the conversations I had with teachers and others in the learning sector. Now, I have focused on primary schools. I think a lot of hinges on the attitude of students to IT formed there. In that, I recall Muriel Sparks' Jean Brodie as saying, "Give me a girl at an impressionable age, and she is mine for life." One of the schools that I looked at is in East London. It's a primary school in a deprived area. It has 1,000 students. I was told the problem begins at teacher training, when not enough time is spent on computing, and it is compounded by the lack of inset days computer training. Computing is overshadowed by numeracy and literacy, teaching to satisfy SATs. There is no lead for computing at the school, and they have no up-to-date equipment. Next to a school in Hertfordshire, again a primary school, this time with just over 600 students. This school, which is better funded than the one in East London, and the senior leadership do focus on computing. They use an outside commercial company to provide both a teacher and equipment. The teacher provided by the company is a man. It was remarked that young teachers at the school are confident in teaching computing, whilst older teachers are not so confident. I then looked at an Essex primary school trust with several schools and with a considerable focus on IT, with a very able lead teacher. The view there was that senior leaders do not prioritize computing. Heads worry about capacity rather than individual development. There are multiple free programs which heads could employ, but they don't. There's a lack of formal assessment in computing development. Teachers lack confidence to carry out tests. There is a lack of collaboration between primary and secondary schools, so that secondary schools start computer training afresh in year 7, which can demotivate capable pupils. As background to the possible issues in primary schools, data from the Department of Education from June 2023 shows that there were 468,371 teachers in primary schools, of which 83% were female. Those I've spoken to in the teaching profession have said that female teachers are less confident with teaching computing. According to a report by PwC in 2017 on women in technology, females prefer a career that enables them to provide a positive difference in the world. Technology does, of course, make a huge difference to societies and individuals around the world, as we know. There is a STEM gender gap at school that carries through to female career choices. 27% of female respondents would consider a career in technology, compared with 62% of males. Only 3% of females would make it their first choice. It has also been said to me that this is because, amongst other things, technology is not seen as a caring sector to go into. The PwC report concluded that a shortage of female role models is a major barrier, alongside how technology can enable women to change the world. A report in The Guardian in 2021 by Sarah Walsh, a technology teacher in Oldham, pointed out families that are still backwards in terms of those sectors or professions which are suitable for boys and girls. So it starts in the family. In some areas, technology is seen as something for boys rather than for girls. In my research to see whether the WCIT or others could do anything to help with the apparent problem in schools, I was amazed at the amount of help that is available, and most of it free of charge. The National Centre for Computing Education has extensive free resources. The Institution of Electrical Engineering and Technology has a wide range of free teaching resources and classroom activities, including lesson plans, handouts, and film clips. Archives of IT, which I chair, has free, easy-to-use lesson plans that are delivered virtually. A Google search that I did reveals hundreds of commercial providers of materials, software, and hardware available to schools. BT promotes online resources that enables teachers to support STEM-related lessons with face-to-face and online events. Barefoot provides free online CPD workshops led by trained volunteers. The BBC provides online teaching aids, and last year gave UK primary school teachers an opportunity to sign up for a free classroom set of 30 microbit computers. Computing at schools has built up a collection of thousands of member-created resources which can be accessed free. And that's not the end of it. The Microbit Educational Foundation is a non-profit organisation that aims to inspire every child to create a better digital future by developing hardware and software that inspires young people to get excited. There is also extensive help from the BCS, stemming from a landscape review they did in 2021 on the quality of computing qualifications in the UK. This report offers a comprehensive picture, far more comprehensive than mine, of the varying levels of engagement in computer science and closely related qualifications, and focuses attention on continuing challenges of participation by young women and securing enough teachers to deliver specialist training and learning effectively. It also demonstrates how much the BCS is focused on delivering higher quality professional development and resources to teachers from primary through to A-level. There is excellent leadership from Julia Adams. Turning now to the problem of girls being put off from going into IT. Again, there is a lot of free help available to schools and students. The Female Lead Society was founded by Edwina Dunn in 2017 and aims to inspire girls by providing role models who can visit schools. Sherry Kotu's Founders for Schools brings inspiring entrepreneurs to universities and schools. My own Archives of IT provides a range of facilities to schools to support understanding and awareness of IT, its history, and children's own potential future within it. An example of this is material emphasizing the importance of both past and current female leaders in IT, including Dame Stephanie Shirley, as you'll see in this slide, to inspire girls to take computing. The WCIT itself has been doing a lot over many years on learning. Our Education and Training Committee are committed to information technology transforming the learning process to make it widely available. So where does that leave us? Well, the WCIT has a history of helping overcome issues like the one I've outlined. Major successes have been in cooperation with others, using WCIT's members' expertise. In the early 1990s, I founded the Medicine and Health Panel. One of the panel's great successes was working with the IT department of the National Health Service, then based in Leeds, and before all the changes that caused the problems later in the decade, to prepare a guide for non-executive directors of health trusts about IT systems, majoring on what to look for when major projects are brought before boards for decision. Such was its success that that it became the IT handbook for all NHS trusts, and not just for non-executive directors. 50,000 copies were printed and distributed alongside in 2 editions. I was pleased to be reminded when I found my copy of the 2002 edition of the handbook that it carries alongside my own endorsement those of, among others, Sir John Bourne, who was the Controller and Auditor General at that time, Andrew Foster, who was Controller of the Audit Commission, Professor Alistair Bellingham, Chairman of the NHS Information Authority, and Jeff McMullen, who was then President of the BCS. An important document which had an impact. In a busy curriculum, teachers need all the help they can get to successfully teach computing. Several of the people I spoke to offer free material and in-school visits said they very often get no response when they contact schools. The economy needs computing and IT skills to be carried from a young age. Students need to see that there is an opportunity for them in IT, especially girls, is just as exciting now that it's always been. The situation I have described in this lecture is, of course, not based on exhaustive research. It has, however, been reinforced by everyone I've spoken to. So I propose that the WCIT establish a task force bringing together education, government, and industry people from our membership to work with the government and others like the IET, BCS, Microsoft, and perhaps other livery companies to probe the situation further, and if confirmed, to produce an online briefing for head teachers, school governors, and computing leads to guide schools through the extensive available free and commercial resources, both virtual and in person, to motivate, train, and keep teachers up to date in computing. To provide in-class teaching materials and where to get inspiring role models for girls and where to get often free equipment and maintenance. As part of this, it'd be worthwhile looking at help for heads and teachers to assess students' learning progress, which is something which, as been said, is lacking at the moment. And that also provides important feedback in any project. Thank you.
John, are you aware of the Young Coders competition that the WCIT sponsor, run by Court Liveryman Jane Kimberlin?
Yes, I am. Yes, I think it's very good.
That's been quite a good program to get a lot of young kids. We've got some schools that are very enthusiastic. Our challenge has been to try and get that across all schools and accepted more widely.
Yeah, I mean, in preparing for this lecture, I did discuss what the Education and Training Committee was doing with its chair, John, and this was one of the programs that was mentioned. I think it's excellent, and anything to encourage children to participate is to be welcomed, and I think it helps teachers. You know, in that respect, I think it sits alongside a lot of other stuff that is there, but I do feel needs a lot of schools need to help to navigate what's available. That was the purport of what I found, and I was surprised that oftentimes, well, you know, people I've spoken to who've got large programs, they contact schools to see if they can provide material or send people in as role models, and they don't get a reply.
That's very sad. Thank you, John. The next question is from Jane Kimberlin herself. Jane.
Thank you, Master. I was just really thanking Nick for his mentioning the young coders before I got a chance to get in there. John, I thought it was an excellent presentation. Thank you very much. It rang a lot of bells, particularly with the young coders and the teacher's side. I think you're probably aware one of our first problems was with the teaching side. We now have 12 lessons available for teachers who have absolutely zero knowledge, so they can start from scratch there and establishing the competition. So I look forward to working further with you. Education Training Committee is involved already with that, so I think there's some excellent ideas you put forward. So thank you.
Because I think the important point is a confidence issue. If you can provide something that people feel that they can use without having too much prior training, then I think it starts them on the road. And I'm talking about teachers here rather than pupils.
Yes, the pupils aren't the problem. They have all the confidence in the world, don't they? But you're absolutely right. It is the teachers. Thank you.
I rather like that. They don't understand it. They don't have any training in it. They want to understand it. And can we make it simple and they'll do it in 20 minutes? How does that even begin as a thought in your head? Thank you. Paul Finch.
Yeah, thank you, John. I think quite a an interesting presentation. I've been invited in a number of times to schools to present as a entrepreneurial character on what life could be like. And my personal experience is I find the young ladies very interested in the younger fellas twiddling their thumbs or playing perhaps with devices. And maybe that's part of the scene we're dealing with, is the attention span seems to be different for younger lads, and maybe that's something to do with the take-up. But it strikes me, John, that there's tons of content, but we're short of people to deliver it. I'm wondering if it's part of a community-led project, really, that we engage communities and empower communities to help their local schools. Maybe that's a possible approach for pursuing your cause. What do you think?
Well, I think that is important. I think when you say community, I think families. I was really quite shocked to find this, which came actually from a couple of sources. One is one I greatly respect, has been in education for 30 or 40 years and is still very active. This attitude on the part of, I can't say it's all communities, but in many communities, where IT is not seen as something that's appropriate for girls. I think that's a major issue. So I think in terms of the work of support, it needs to be for the teachers, for the students themselves, and there are a lot of programs, and WCIT is helping in that. But also to take it outside. I think governors have got to be involved, and indeed the communities, you say, which will include families. I think there's an admix here. Somebody said to me when I talked to them, it's a complex issue, and it is. And it's trying to find a way of bringing those various things together in order to both enthuse and encourage people to understand, to look behind something they use every day. These kids increasingly have got smartphones and are using advanced technology. It would be nice if some of them got behind that and said, look, there is an opportunity here for you. It's, and I think that's the important thing. So it's quite a widespread initiative that needs to be taken, and it's help. We can't drain the ocean, but what we can do is try and guide people to where that help is available.
Thank you. I'm going to take a question from the chat. John Milner says, is it possible that a focus on gaming amongst young boys is counterproductive?
I think that goes back to what I said about they use it. We need to get them behind what is there, and it could be something for them, not just to play, but to actually contribute to. And at AIT, we have interviewed a number of people who are in the gaming industry at the moment to try and inspire people to say, and what we know of our industry is in the past it's been very open. I know there's been challenges for women at one stage, and we seem to be going backwards there, which is sad. But for people from disadvantaged backgrounds and from ethnic minority backgrounds, it's been good and a good employer. And you can meet these people, some of whom are now worth a considerable amount of money. But there's been an opportunity there. What is interesting is one of the things we do at AIT. We had a session. We took Sir Robin Saxby into a primary school. And I was actually amazed at the effect. We spoke to, well, it touches upon a couple of the questions that have already been raised. We spoke to about 120 children at the school in 2 sessions in year 6. And then in the afternoon, he spoke, I say we, I was there, to about 1,000 schools, pupils through a link like this, and I was absolutely amazed at their engagement and the questions they asked. I think it's a matter of stimulating, and afterwards, touching again upon something that I said, the teachers who were there, except the IT lead, who I think I value greatly, were all female, said how much it helped them to understand ways in which they can stimulate the children's interests, both boys and girls. So it's interesting what can be done if you can get through with the right material.
Thank you. Past Master Michael Grant has a question. Michael, you're not on my screen, but if you start talking, you will be.
Fine. Thank you very much indeed, John. As you know, this is a field of great interest to me. Can I also thank you for mentioning the BCS? Julia Adamson, whom you mentioned, is quite a remarkable person, and who I know, I hope you've actually met her, because you will be a great inspiration for her, and she will be a great inspiration for you, and confirm the thoughts you have. I think, as you know, I'm a member of the Chichester University Trust. We have 15 schools, 10 of them are primary schools. And if anybody wishes to do further research in that area, I would like to offer the trust in that area. John, you made one comment about the IT business not being a caring sector. I wonder if you would mind possibly expanding on that a little bit. And I just wonder if, again, that's something which our livery company could do to perhaps change over time. Thank you, John.
Yes, I think this is it's been said to me by 2 or 3 people whom I've talked to, in that, and it seems to be, well, more than 2 or 3. Some of them who are engaged in trying to help girls come, be interested, or come be excited by IT. And there is also an effect in the family as well. So it's complex, but really they don't. There is this sensitivity. They don't see IT, which is seen as a boys' area and a bit grungy. I suppose if they've watched the various television things, they might have come to that conclusion. It's a feeling thing that they'd sooner do something that is more directly connected with caring than they see IT. It's a perception issue. It's a complex one, and when you start to think about what IT has enabled, especially with some of the current developments in terms of medicine, in terms of agriculture, in terms of other areas of helping people, in terms of social help, and it's fantastic. I mean, the genome analysis that's used to come up with the vaccines during the pandemic wouldn't have happened. You look at a lot of things in terms of care and the enabling of care, making it easier. Then there is a direct link to IT, but that link is not easily made. It's something I think that has to be worked at. It surprised me, but I retail it as something that I think needs to be looked at.
Thanks, John. Ian, you had your hand up and then it went down and it's just flashed up again.
Yeah, sorry, it was something went wrong with Zoom. I meant to be continuously up. John, I was wondering if you had actually heard of the Open UK Kids Camp. It was sponsored by Red Hat, and I think it's been done a couple of times. And basically all the participants get a little giveaway packet which contains pre-made digital glove and the wiring and some loudspeakers, and it's all to be used with microbit, BBC microbit computer. And the project is they develop programs and coding that makes use of the glove and the microbit to do interesting and useful things. And it's all at nil cost to the participants because there's commercial sponsorship. Is that a project you've been aware of?
I did see it, and I didn't include it in that list. You remember? I think I saw.
I did, yeah.
There was a busy slide, and I apologise for that busy slide, because again, as I said, I'm somewhat amazed at the amount of help that is available, and most of it free. I mean, to the school in East London, who had no lead, who have no up-to-date equipment, I was able to identify to them that within 2 miles of where they are was a charity which could help them with both, all free of charge. So I think it's a question. It then comes back to, I think that there's an enormous amount of help available. It's a matter of getting it on the list, of prioritizing it. When I think primary school kids are somewhat beleaguered, like so many other people. I think it's a question of trying to say that this won't bust your budget. This won't divert people away from STEM priorities. It's all part of it, and it's essential for these students as they move forward in life, because it's not going to go away.
Thanks, John. Julia's also had her hand up for a while. Julia?
Thank you, Kerry. I'm wondering if we go to the source of the problem, which is a lot of young people just do not identify with careers in IT because they don't really see themselves in IT. One of the things that we're doing at the Financial Services Technology Panel, one of our objectives is to increase awareness amongst young people of the range of careers in financial services technology. And we've embarked on a project, and the subgroup that is working on the project in the panel has visited the Hammersmith Academy. And what advice they've had from the students they talk to is, if you're going to give us any material, please make sure that the role models you show, because we want to show different roles. You know, IT can lead to a career not just in coding, but in many, many other forms that can, you know, and therefore going to your point, John, about what difference it can make to your life, your family's lives, other people's lives. And they said, please make sure that any role models you show look like us, not male, older people or young geeks. They need to look like us. So I would just encourage that any initiative we're involved with, that we do develop material that uses role models that look like the various constituencies in the schools we're talking about, which is what we will be trying to do, by the way, with our initiative.
I think that's very appropriate. I think it's the other side of gamers, what I was saying earlier, that they may be absorbed, but there are some interesting role models there of young people who are making their way now, who I think have a relevance, and not just men, men and women, and I think that is terribly important.
Thank you.
Thank you. A question from the chat from Keith Bear. What impact do you think AI will have, both on enhancing education as well as a topic to drive more interest engagement with the children?
Well, I think I'm not an expert in this area, but I think it has enormous capability of helping to tailor what's available to the requirement. What I don't think it does is, and that I think is really, I think, the sharp end of what I'm trying to say. It doesn't necessarily get you through the gate to be able to be in front of the students. You know, it's a matter of trying to squeeze into a very busy curriculum. So I think AI clearly is going to transform all our lives in one way or the other, and can help in this area in terms of educational assistance. But I think the main thing is helping those heads and leads and teachers themselves with the CPD that they need, and I suppose it could help there, continuous professional development, to be confident that they can teach the subject and they can do it in a way which is relevant and meaningful. So there could be a help, but what that is, I don't know. My concern is getting through the gate.
Thank you. And Jodie has put a couple of comments in the chat that says this is common also to maths and engineering, as well as technologies we know. And it's an academic problem in the UK. It starts with the subjects for the 11+ exam. And we do need to continue on this. You've made some very good suggestions for that. And Jodie also asks, what can we do to help in a more profound way? And I'd like to come back to that, Jodie, when we finish with the questions, because obviously we want to have our what happens next come out of this. We don't want to say, what a lovely lecture, John. We've all discussed it, and then we're going to go and do precisely nothing about it. So we need the what happens next. So Jodie, hold that thought for me while we go to Richard with your question. Richard, please.
Hello, John. You're looking very smart. Sorry, I'm not wearing the official tie. look, people project all sorts of reasons for this problem. It's very persistent, you know, and everybody will come up with a reason as to why it's a problem. The question I had for you was, is the United Kingdom particularly bad at this, or is it an international problem? Because if it was an international problem, I find that quite helpful, because it means you can eliminate all sorts of possible causes for the problem.
The answer to your question is I don't know, because I just looked at the UK. In passing, again, talking to people who know far more about this than I do, the feeling is that it is not as bad on the continent.
Yeah, I just had a quick look at the data, and I couldn't persuade myself of that. I think everyone worries about it.
Yeah. So the answer is I don't know.
But I'd be delighted to know, because I think it would help us get a handle on what the nub of the problem is.
I think my focus has been on the importance in a post-industrial economy of and quaternary industries, which includes IT. If we're not producing enough people, and other issues may get in the way of us importing those skills, because that's what we have done over some time, then it will damage our economic growth.
Yeah.
That's where I start.
It would be wonderful to be a skills exporter, wouldn't
it? Well, providing you get through the red tape, that's another issue.
Anyway, thanks. Good answer. Thanks.
We have a question from Simon Periton that says, are our two schools leading in this area, or is there more work to do with them? Now, that may not be one you can answer, John, but I'm pretty sure G. Lee is on, and maybe John Kidd, and they might be able to help with that if you can't, John.
Yeah, or Nick.
Nick, is that what you wanted to
Well, I was just going to,
yeah,
it's a year now since, almost a year now since I stepped down as a governor after 8 years as a governor of the Hammersmith Academy. And we had quite a strong support in the IT sector, not as strong as we'd like, but, you know, the government school strategy abolished the specializations which were in place when we established the school. But 2 years ago, I remember the figures very clearly. The top 3 students who all had 2 got into, 1 Oxford, 1 Cambridge, and 1 was, I think, UCL, all were doing computer science. And the most popular subject after maths and English for GCSEs was computer science and information studies, which is a separate subject these days, which covers cybersecurity and things like that. So there is work being done. I always think it can be more.
Thank you. We've got a few comments saying how very disappointing this is, that we seem to have peaked with women in the industry in the early 80s, and that we really haven't advanced very far, and in fact have gone backwards in the last 20 years. So just rounding those up together there. James Fleck has said, is the main problem one of time? And how does one go about changing a curriculum and adding things in when everything is still focused where it's been focused for a very long time now?
I think there is an issue, and I've seen some reports. I think the Royal Society picked this up when they did some work, is that since the changes in the curriculum in 2020, computing is required to be taught. But the amount of time that's allocated to it may only be an hour a week, and it does battle with other elements. So that there is some aspect of that, but I know from other work I'm doing that it's much easier to find time if you want to. It is easier, slightly easier, and I may be knocked down by any heads who are watching who know that juggling timetables is the most amazing thing. But for enrichment, there is time made available in primary school for enrichment. And I think this could take some of that. And the tools are there to make it happen. I think we just have to guide people as to how they can take those tools and bring more of the learning opportunity for computing to primary school students.
A question from me, if I may, and it may be head of the silly questions for the evening. What is taught in computing? Because I'm not sure that anything I've done in my entire working life in IT would be covered in any sort of educational curriculum.
Yeah.
So are we teaching the right things, or are we teaching people they need to follow a certain course because that's computing?
I think this is not an area of expertise that I have. I'm reliant on other people, but I think it's a matter of getting them used to to being familiar with being able to do things. You know, there is Raspberry Pi. There is the sort of thing that Ian came up with, to get them familiar with the fact that, and how to use computing. Well, they have games to play, how to use a computer, and how to develop, how to develop ideas and projects using a computer. It's not about, there is coding, but I don't think that's widespread. I think it's a familiarity with being able to, and a facility with a computer that can then be taken to the next level. I think the question is, do you have time to take it to the next level? But I think there are other people who are much better able to answer that than me. I must admit, I've been looking at the effects rather than the what happens on the ground. Perhaps that's obviously a mistake as far as I'm concerned. Is the curriculum right? I did look at it right at the beginning, and I thought that, but I didn't include it in this lecture, and it's somewhere in front of me on the table, but I won't reach for it now.
Thank you. So we are at the end of our questions, and I'd like to move on, if I can, to what are we going to do about it? So I'd like to see some hands up. Jodie, I'm looking at you. And to see where we can start. Geely, I think, will be a very big part of that. And one or two others who've been quite active in the chat there. I think Richard's going to be good with this. Where do we start? What can we do? What do we need to convene? Who do we need to get in contact with? And what are our next steps? Who'd like to start?
Can you hear me,
Good.
Martha? Peter
Yes,
Morgan,
Peter.
can you? I wanted to ask John a question, but obviously you can't see me. My first reaction to that question would be, John painted a picture of confusion at the primary school level in particular. A lot of information and help available, nobody knows how to access it. A lot of people who are not sufficiently trained and competent. And I found myself wondering why there's almost a case for a 4-week boot camp where you not only get taught what you should be teaching, but you're also given a full briefing on what is available and what you can use. And I just feel from listening to John that there's a need for more structure. That would be my first point. My second point is, if we assume that the third level of the tertiary level of education is adequate, and I don't know whether that is so, that what we do in universities, clearly what we're trying to do is feed into universities. And I have to come back to John's point about the curriculum. I mean, what are we trying to achieve with primary children? What are we trying to achieve with secondary children? What are the levels of competence we want to instill? And at which point do we want to pull out the really bright ones and drive them forward? And I don't see the ladder, the pathway from what's being said. perhaps I could add one more point, because I spent the morning at Lloyd's listening to presentations, and one was a brilliant syndicate manager talking about risk. And he said that they'd used AI, and in 40 hours, they'd looked at 1 million documents. And they were able to get out of that the ability not only to use 7 reference points to give a quote, but 100. And he said, just applying the IT that is now available changes the world. The other speech said that cyber warfare is upon us. And what I take away from that is we better have some soldiers for the cyber warfare. They said the armies are now running the hackers in China and Russia. It's terrifying. Sorry, I've probably spoken for too long.
Not at all. Not at all. John, do you want to respond?
Yes, there were a couple of things. I think. Thank you, Peter. I think the first step is to actually. Well, I think that there's two. Well, I think actually to try and talk to some head teachers. I think that would be a good place, or some leads. There are a few people I can think of who we might talk to, but I think it's actually doing a little more research. I think Peter's interesting in terms of saying what AI can do, because as someone else who's been on the call did, I actually posed the lecture to AI, to ChatGPT, and it came up with actually quite a good formula. I didn't adopt that in the end of the day. I thought I'd better just plough my own particular furrow. But I think there is an opportunity to try and refine some of the areas that we might target if we go forward in this by using AI and being able to look at the mass of documentation there is. I mean, I was just overwhelmed by the report. There's an Ofsted report which came out, I think, last year, which looks at this, which runs to God knows how many pages, and I've only looked at elements of it. So I think we, it's a matter of looking at. Well, I think the good point that's made is the curriculum fit for purpose. Is the training? I think we still have to go back and say, is the training fit for purpose? Because if you don't inspire the teachers, it makes it much more difficult to inspire the students.
Yeah.
So I think it's starting at the ground at fairly basic levels will help us to identify where we can leverage most. Sorry, there is a question I noticed.
Thank you. Yes, Jodie. I'm going to call you in at this point, if I may, Jodie. Oh, no, I can't hear you. Why can't I hear you? I can see you're speaking.
Can you hear me now?
Can hear you now, yeah.
So with the homelessness panel, Kerry, we've gone straight to King Charles because he's obviously got an initiative on the homelessness, and we've got feedback and correspondence going with his trust. And I think you just go straight to the top. You go to, obviously, after in July, you go to the Minister of Education and you say, look, we've put together this initiative at WCIT, which targets, in my view, sectors. So you say, right, you get a girl, right, age 10, whatever, or age 15, and wants to go into financial services, just as an example. And you say, okay, these are the IT skills you need to have to go into financial services. You need to be able to do modeling. You need to be able to understand AI. You need to be every industry. So we break it down into sort of vocations and say, this is the IT you need to know to go into that vocation, because you don't need to know how to program Python in financial services, but there's a lot of IT you do need to understand. So I think IT itself is everywhere. So it can't be a sector, right? Maybe computer science is kind of an initiation, but you break it down into vocation. You say, okay, these are the actual IT. Because when I get people into my financial services business, they often can't even open Outlook, right? They've never done that, but they've been gaming for 10 years or whatever. They need to know how to use Excel. They need to understand, so that's my view, is that if we can do that and put something forward to the government. So what the government likes, I deal with them in the space industry and lots of different things. They like us to tell them the answer. They don't want us to come to them with a question or a request for money. They want to say, this is the problem and this is the answer. Can we work together to do this? And I think maybe that could be effective as we're getting a new government in. They'll have new initiatives and things like that. We tell them the problem, we state the facts under that problem, and we say, this is how we're going to help fix it. Can we work together to do this? And then there'll be lots of funding for that as well. It's my view, but that's my view.
Thank you. And G. Lee, you've also got your hand up. I'm trying to find you. I've got 3 screens of people here. G, can you hear me?
I've just admitted him back in the room, Kerry. He must have fell out, so he's just coming back in now.
Right, he'd gone out to come back in on a different laptop because his sound wasn't working. While we just wait for G to come in, is there anyone else that would like to add to the conversation? Gary.
John, that was excellent. But one thing I just want to add, you know that I'm not really a member for the IT industry, because IT is an enabler. I'm a physicist, and therefore I come at it in a different way. And one of the things I've noticed with my children and grandchildren, one of the powerful things to help in this are computer clubs. And computer clubs in schools, and I'll take my son as an example, the computer club was so powerful, the teachers were learning from them. And this is something you may want to encourage and add to what Jodie has said, pointing out that IT is an enabler and it affects everybody. I wouldn't be able to achieve what I've achieved in the space industry without IT. And I've come at it a different way. And I think those are the things that get it across, so people don't think they've got to go on a specific way and aim particularly at playing with their toys in IT directly.
No, I think you're right, Gary. I think the issue is at schools where you don't have people to crystallize this. You don't have an education, you don't have a computing lead, and they've got equipment which is massively out of date. So I think actually there are a number of aspects that you need to sort out before you can actually successfully launch a computing club. So it is there. I think what we've got to do, and I like the idea of going back to the other thing of actually looking at what the, as it were, the sectoral requirements are. So that this is the output that we're looking for. Might help teachers understand that it's a big issue. What is computing? Somebody said that before, and it would help prepare them for the task, helping with the journey. At the moment, a lot of them feel ill, perhaps, we said, may not be entirely clear what the journey is. So it's as my old friend said, it's a complex issue, and actually streaming out elements of it to help us, perhaps, and I do agree, government is key to this, and it was a part of government who helped us, and other parts of government who helped us with the medicine and health initiative that I mentioned from 25 years ago.
Okay, thanks, John. Peter Bailey, coming to you. Seen your hand going up and down a bit.
Yes, thank you. And thank you for the presentation, John. I can give you a very positive report about how kids at the secondary level can be inspired in computing, in that my eldest granddaughter, did a Cyber Girls competition, and kids love competitions. So that's a great way in directly to the kids at any age level. But she did a Cyber Girls competition that was sponsored by GCHQ. They visited GCHQ. There were lots of young women there doing incredible work, and they were inspired to go back. This was when they were in the 5th form at a grammar school, to go back and lobby to get a full-time computer science teacher into the school. They managed to do that. And all of the girls that did that are now studying computer science and computer studies in universities. My own granddaughter is en route to an MSc in computing at I've forgotten which university, at university. So it's getting to the kids and giving them an inspirational look at what they can do with those kind of skills. As was mentioned earlier on, it's going to affect them whatever they do in life. And as I said in a comment in the comments boxes, it's like Shakespeare. You know, some people would get to talk Shakespeare so badly that they swear they're never going to read Shakespeare ever again in their lives. And other people are inspired by it and keep it within their lives and create it with creative writing, creative thinking, and so on for the rest of their lives. And that depends on the teachers. So you've got to get to the teacher, get an inspirational teacher, as they now have at this grammar school, which is a very, very popular course that didn't exist before, because the girls who originally got it together saw what could be done with those skills.
Yeah, good.
Thanks, Peter. So I would like to say thank you to everyone. A huge thank you to John for promoting such an interesting discussion. And I think something is going to come out of this. And I think we are going to make a difference. And to Peter's point, I hope we inspire the next generation of girls. I'd like to thank Tina for being with us tonight. Tina Gibbens, thank you very much for being with us. I hope you found it a good use, and I'm thoroughly enjoying the fact that your cat wants to know who we all are as well. Thank you very much, everybody.